Gurudev, aka Shri Ravi Shankar, and this is a very auspicious day for me. We're hugely blessed to have him here. I'm going to jump right into the interview. You guys enjoy the live stream. This will be coming out as an official podcast very soon. And for my video editors, here's a slate in 3, 2, 1. Gurudev, welcome to the Life Stylist Podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's such an honor to meet you. Now, I know we have a brief period of time in which I have so many questions to ask you, so I'm going to try and cherry pick some of my favorite ones. But I want to start with your early life. When did you get the sense that your dharmic path in life had to do with spirituality?
Spirituality was like fish to water for me. So from the very beginning, from my childhood, I was deeply engrossed in it.
Was this part of your family system or something that you gravitated toward?
Yeah, but though my family was spiritual, but they were anything into it as much as I had. In fact, they were trying to wean me away from it, my mother especially, because she was a little scared that I might just renounce and go away.
Right. You might wander off to the Himalayas and live in a cave and forget about your family.
Yeah.
I'm so curious, as I was telling you before we recorded, I've always been fascinated by the fact that so many enlightened beings and mystics in this time period over the past couple hundred years have come from India. You know, you have Maharaji, the Maharishi, Muktananda, Ramana Maharshi. I mean, just on and on, legitimate high consciousness beings, and yet you don't see a bunch of them coming from Italy or Africa or different places. Maybe they're there and we don't know. Do you have any sense of why in this time period so many mystics have emerged from there?
Yeah. See, maple trees are found in Canada. You see that olives you can get not everywhere, in some places. So nature has its own, perhaps time and space has its own dimension, its own equations. But I tell you, there have been saints also from Assisi, from Middle East, from Jerusalem, from those areas, and there have been saints in North America as well. If you walk around in Quebec and you find all the streets named after saints. So, yes, the non-dual philosophy of India is very unique, and it has its roots there, which is universal. The thought that whole world is one family originated from India, no doubt. And so it's a speciality there that people are more tuned to this philosophy and knowledge and light.
And have you ever explored why it seems that so speaking of, this lineage of mystics, they have been predominantly male. And I've always wondered, just speaking of India specifically, you have Amma the Hugging Saint, you have Amma and Bhagavan. I'm sure there are others that I'm not aware of. One spiritual teacher that I've studied quite a bit gave the opinion or belief that there are perhaps more males that reach higher states of consciousness, and I'm going to piss off some women here, this is not me, but it has to do with the male nervous system being able to sort of withstand more power.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
For the spirit there is no male or female. In
Got
fact, each one of us is made up of both mother and father. Inside you there is a male, inside you there is a female. The spirit is different from the physical appearance, body level. So when you go to the subtler aspect of yourself, see, in breath there is no male breath and female breath. You see, gender is limited to our body. And to some extent it has its shadow on the mind too. But beyond that, the spirit or God is beyond gender.
Right. So I've wondered that perhaps the females that have had spiritual knowledge and wisdom maybe haven't been as vocal about it, or have been
Oh, yeah.
suppressed or not recognized maybe, right?
There has been many female saints in India. Andal was South India, was one in the 12th century, and Meera was there. She was acknowledged by everyone. Even today, the songs of Meera is all over the place. So there has been saints. In Kashmir also there was the saint. So yes, you don't have to be saint for the whole population. They could be taking care of their family, their circumstance, their surroundings. I see a saint hiding in maybe every grandmother.
Right, right. I've had experiences where I think generally people, we tend to put people on pedestals as like our teacher or savior, and so there's these enlightened or exalted beings, and we sometimes view them as having something that we don't possess, right? And then I've had experiences wherein I've met just a householder, regular person, and they seem enlightened to me, right? They figured it out. They found the key to joy and and liberation.
See,
and no one knows except one that can see, maybe.
There are two roles. One is to realize oneself, to get enlightened. Another aspect is to able to convey that to people, convey it to millions. These are two different roles that one. When Raman Maharshi was alive, very few people knew about it. But then people who got the knowledge, wisdom from it, then they started sharing with everybody, then one comes to know about it. So, to finding the unconditional love within you is one aspect, and the ability or the role to give that to everyone is a second thing. So being a teacher has its, or a master has its own specific role.
Got it.
So not everybody need to be that.
Right. Someone could be enlightened humbly and quietly and not necessarily have the same role as teaching or carrying that on.
Yeah.
Got it. What's the deal with reincarnation? I have had the sense in numerous mystical experiences in my life that I've been here many, many times before on this path of seeking God. What is your perspective or the Vedic perspective on reincarnation?
Oh yeah, it is there. I know. I know. I have been here before.
And
Reincarnation, today you can't deny it. Even science has recognized that. You have past life regression therapy as one of the therapies in many, psychological labs and clinics. They use it, and parapsychology has become part of, research institutes around the world. It is there, yeah.
And
like the thoughts and emotions, your desires and fears, anxieties, they go with you. Those impressions go with your spirit, and you come right back when the opportunity is there to release them.
do you think that our individual soul that keeps coming back and reincarnating in different bodies with different circumstances, do you have the sense or anything that soul has evolved through different, like a hierarchy of species, starting from a bacteria to fungus to shellfish to gopher to deer to human, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that? Or do you think that there's just different planes of souls and we're in the human soul plane?
No, there is a progression from one life to another life, yes. One form of, one species to another species, yes.
And do you know how long in between, generally, human incarnations we exist in the non-physical?
In between lives,
Yeah.
you mean? How long we hang out there?
Yeah, so when I drop this body, how long am I going to hang out in the etheric realm before I pop back in?
Yeah, it's there is no criteria. There is no exact, you cannot say that exactly you will come after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. It's totally variable.
Right.
You can come maybe in 10 days time, or you may not come for 1,000 years.
And I've heard some teachers indicate that it's at around the 90-day point at which a soul enters the embryo, the fetus.
The three possibilities. One is at the time of conception. The second is when the embryo is formed very well at that time. That's about 4th month or 5th month time. And then the third is sometimes even at the time of birth.
Really?
Just before the birth.
Wow. Do you think it's possible that one soul could embody an embryo and then change its mind in a sense, and someone new comes in? Really? This information, so I'm asking you these questions that are obviously age-old, just questions that humanity has yearned to have answers for. Do the answers that you arrive at come from within, from meditation or text or teachings that you read, or?
Absolutely. They just, any intuitive knowledge that we all have, we are just downloading them. You see, our brain just downloads those information. And then, whether it is authentic or not, that scriptures are there to look into that.
Right. And
because then, sometimes your own imagining, you can be in your own imagination, in a trip of what we call it, Yoga Maya. It's an illusion of yoga. You can have your own imaginations, sneak into it. To avoid that, you also have to look into the tested documents from long time. Yeah.
because one could have an attachment to the outcome that they desire, right? I'm just going to, oh, my intuition is telling me, this or that, right?
It needs authentication. That comes from the scriptures.
Got it. And what I've arrived where I've arrived in my understanding and how I make sense of life is that I have the sense that I incarnated here as sort of a spiritual school, this earth school, with the opportunity to undo what could be best described, I guess, as negative karma, and to earn positive karma, and to evolve as the soul.
No, don't take it all too seriously.
Okay.
You have come here to play a role.
Okay.
Have fun.
Okay. It can't be that simple, no.
Yeah, you have come here to celebrate life. You have not come here to do something very hard and, go somewhere. It's like a playground. The life is like a play, It's a stage wherein you go, you take a role and you play the role, you play it well and you come back.
Well, in this play, it seems to be people that have not yet realized that it is a play and that it is a game.
Yes. You forgot it's a play.
And that's the root of the
And
suffering.
this is the first realization one gets when one leaves the body. Hey, come on, I was in the game there. If you watch a soccer game and the people who feel they are losing, they are so stressed out there. Correct? Their aim is to get the goal, to win the game. And many times they find themselves in a space that looks as though it's a matter of life or death for them.
Yeah, especially my British friends. They're very much that way. You see them with this scowl on their face. Man, what's wrong? Did somebody die? No, my team lost. Manchester lost, or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
But we all, I think, can at times take ourselves too seriously and forget that it is a game.
Because we have no context to life. We should have a broader context. Now you are talking about bigger context. We have come here many times, and we will continue coming here. So this awareness itself is not there, And we don't even look back at our own life experiences, which one gives us more confidence to move forward. See, if you're worried, then you don't look back and say, hey, I was worrying like this 10 years back, 5 years back, and I'm still alive, I'm okay, everything, I'm doing well, why do I worry again? This, uh, this thought doesn't get kindled in one because we don't look back. It's so interesting to see life from a limited perspective and at the same time see it from a broad perspective with a bigger context.
Is there a level of consciousness at which a soul doesn't find it necessary to reincarnate into the human experience again? Is there an ascension ladder of sorts where you kind of get to a point where there's no need to be here anymore?
Yeah, once you're free, you're not compelled to come back. But if you wish, you can come back.
Do you think some souls come back solely to be of service
Oh,
and
yeah.
carry the good,
Right,
the good
one
word?
sitting here with
Yeah.
Yeah, we come here to do something, okay, I want to do this, but we come.
So you do all of this incredible humanitarian work in the world. I mean, you're on this, your team was telling me about your touring schedule. It sounds quite grueling. You're going to all these cities, doing all these talks, other interviews, I'm presuming. You're doing much good in the world. Yet, you know, like, I like to do good in the world as well, right? But then I go back to I think it was Ramana Maharshi who said, you know, the world you see doesn't even exist, right? So I see these problems in the world and I want to go stop wars and fix these problems, yet the world that I see is largely based on my perception of it. It's a projection of what I think it is and should be. And I'm always trying to reconcile kind of doing good in the world and yet knowing that the world is how it should be and it's up to God.
Yeah, that keeps you sane. If you get so entrenched in it, then you can't smile even, you know. You get into that maya, that illusion. But when you know the truth, then nothing stops you, nothing bothers you. You know, you are just in your element and you are not making an effort to show your compassion or love. You are that, so you can't but express it. See, it's in your nature.
So it's not so much, you know, fighting against evil
It's
and
not doing
fighting
something.
poverty, fighting suffering, kind of just a different energy.
No, it's a different, it's a completely different space where you are just there and let things happen.
Would you say that your approach then is spiritually is more about just acknowledging what's already present rather than striving after some spiritual goal?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
there are different levels, you know, when for a beginner, they should have a goal. They should get into this path. Once you're on the path, you have to relax. Like, you know, when you want to catch a train, you have to make an effort to get into the train. But once you're in the train, you have to put down your luggage and relax. No point in running inside the train. It doesn't get you any faster.
That's good. That's good.
So, till the plane takes off, you have to get to the plane. I mean, you have till you catch the flight. You have to make your effort. So, life is a combination of both effort and effortlessness. At some point, you have to make effort. As you said, you know, you came out of the drug. Yeah, if you say let things happen how it is, and you know, it can destroy your body. At some point, you said, no, I don't want drug, but I want something higher. But why do, in the first place, I go to drug? Because I'm not just satisfied with what I get through the five senses. Because my soul's hunger is to see something beyond the five senses. Not seeing, touching, smelling. This is not enough. Yeah, it gives some pleasure, but you're not satisfied by that.
And using drugs as an escape in that way.
Drugs, you are looking for some higher states of consciousness or elevation of mind.
Yeah.
or the spirit.
That's another
But
thing.
when you can get that just by meditation with you using your own breath and by, as you said, Shaktipat or transfer of energy, why would you go for something which would cause harm to you?
Well, I think in my case there was just a lot of unresolved trauma,
And result of
right? That it was like I needed
yeah.
anesthesia,
Yeah.
really. But on that note, one thing I was also curious about is in different cultures around the world and on continents like Africa and South America, historically, native and indigenous people have used plant medicines, ayahuasca, mushrooms, different hallucinogenic, psychedelic things in order to, heal their traumas and to connect with spirit. And yet it seems, according to my research, that this has not been largely part of the culture in Indian spirituality. And subjectively in my life, although I meditated for many years and was very devoted spiritually, there were certain traumas and things that I couldn't seem to overcome until I found those medicines, and they've been, incredibly transformative and healing for me. I'm curious your perspective on the not using drugs recreationally, but the intentional ceremonial use of substances of that nature.
There is a much easier way to alter our chemistry within us just by your breathing and some other practices. You don't need to depend on substances which are out there. Yes, in the Yoga Shastra it is said some herbs do elevate you, give you calm and composture in the mind. But you have to also see what impact it has on our physiology later on. If we are so dependent on the medicines or drugs outside, it can make you more dependent on something. Otherwise, you can't even get into this state. Here, you want freedom from everything, from all dependence. See? That is where we prefer to just get into meditation deeper. And no need to escape. Why you want to escape? You want, this is painful. Some thoughts, some experiences of the past are painful. Now, instead of trying to escape that sensation, you observe, go through it, you will see they just disappear. This is what we do in the silence retreats. I often silence retreats all over the world. The people come with all type of trauma, even from this war, you see, after the war veterans, and people who want to commit suicide, they all come, they just, at 4-5 days of silence, complete relief from traumas, and they go back happily.
Yeah, I guess that's, part of that. Say someone's had a lot of trauma or suffering and they find spirituality as a solution. Is there not a spiritual bypass, right? Of just, everything's great, I'm happy, be kind, be compassionate, yet there's this whole suitcase of stuff that you're lugging around kind of in your subconscious that hasn't been addressed.
No, then that doesn't last too long. This is mood making when you go to some party and just sing be in a rock music and say, oh yeah, I felt very good. You go for some counseling and you feel there is a temporary wellness that comes on to you. That's not enough. You have to go deep in meditation and cleanse all those, remove all those impressions. And that's what the meditation silence program does.
So when you're taking these multiple days of silence and deep inner meditation, then
just
it's creating space.
Yeah. It creates space and relieves you of all those baggage you were mentioning about. Just gets you rid of that.
And when you talk about and recommend meditation, is there a particular style? I know I've done Vedic meditation for a long time, or what type of meditation do you teach?
Yeah, I've done a number of meditations we teach. Basic thing is Sudarshan Kriya, the sky breathing technique. With that, then we have started Samadhi meditation. As give a number of different types of meditation. It suits many different mindsets.
So in deeply meditative experiences, I've observed myself as the witness observer of the phenomenon of me as a personality, as a persona. You know, you are able to kind of dissociate from the mind and the ego part of yourself. And then beyond that, there seems to be this interdimensional quantum realm that is there and accessible through those practices.
Yeah.
In that realm, at times I've experienced the presence of other beings. Do you think that there are, I don't want to call them aliens, but have you experienced interdimensional entities and beings?
Yes, there are, there are devas, there are several levels of beings that are out there, but they're all part of our own consciousness. So you don't feel separate from them when you really know them. So it's all like there is Vibgaya, 7 colors in the sun rays. Like that, in the universal consciousness, there are many flavors. And so these are called the divine impulses of our own consciousness. Yeah. And it's a very, very fascinating, interesting phenomenon. Spiritual realm is not a dull, boring, stagnant state where you just sit and become empty and then go along with your life. It's a journey which tickles you and uprises, completely new dimension to our life. So it makes your life here very rich in the sense there is abundance in all those values that you cherish. See, there is compassion, there is friendliness, there is love, and you don't feel any sense of lack at all or loneliness. And that's why I said there's the first step you take. One more thing I would like to say is this: spirituality is like an ocean. It's up to you what you want to pick up from that. You can just go for a stroll on the beach. You can go for scuba diving. You can go take oil out of it. Like it is unlimited. The possibilities are unlimited. But I feel life begins with this opening. Before that, one simply exists, taking care of some small things. But when the opening happens, that's when the life begins. Because you are access to many dimensions.
In terms of the menu options one has when in spiritual pursuit, for someone who has identified as their calling self-realization and enlightenment, what is the path toward that?
First and foremost is get rid of stress and tension, anxiety, depression. You must be away from these things. And aggressive mindset, that also is not suitable at all. So to get out of all this, we have to know about our own breath, our own body. We have 7 layers to our existence: body, breath, mind, intellect, memory, ego, and then the self. Self is the 7th one. To realize self, we need to get an idea about all these other aspects of us. And with this, then it's by grace that you are open to a new dimension. So you do your effort, but then what comes to you comes to you. It depends on.
Right. So yeah, it really is, as you indicated earlier. It's kind of that balance of striving and allowing. Right. There's a certain intention and maybe even actions
Yeah.
one must take. Otherwise, somebody.
If you open the window in the night and say, no sun there, no sun is going to come and it's going to come. But you have to keep the window open, right? In the same way here, there is certain amount of self-effort that is needed. And after that, it's only patience, you wait. And then whatever you have to get, you'll get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's kind of inherent to Western culture to push and strive and work, and when that's applied to spirituality, it ends up being counterproductive in some way, right? Like, I'm gonna get enlightened today, you know? It's like maybe it's about, you know, putting in appropriate effort and then leaving the results
then,
to God,
right?
right?
Yeah.
It's like,
And then let go.
yeah. What's your take on?
See, in love,
Yeah.
love is all about letting be and letting go. Not trying to pull and possess. Love is the trust, yes. You know, I am here. I want nothing. I do nothing. I am nothing. These principles is good enough for someone to rise to higher levels.
My next question, you alluded into the topic of love, and in romantic love, what's the spiritual approach to human sexuality, of, you know, just having sex versus making love, and the energetics of how we can most appropriately, you know, interact with people on that level?
See, the sex is a need of the body and it stays from some age to some age. It doesn't continue with you forever, or it was not there before you were 10-year-old. See? But love is your very nature, that is nature of your spirit. And a small expression of love could be in the form of sex. So sex is neither bad nor it is good, or no, it's not the ultimate everything, and it's not bad either. So, but you see that there is an aspect in you which is much higher, that you feel that same joy, bliss, and without having to do an action. That is samadhi. That is blissful meditation. I mean, it's a very great subject and big subject if you go into it. I mean, we can keep talking what samadhi is. In fact, in the ancient rishis' words, samadhi is described in units of sex. You know, like 1 unit of sex is how much bliss you get. Samadhi is 1,000 such units.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
1,000 sex.
interesting.
Sahasrarati means 1,000 units of that joy, the pleasure you get, is what you get in a moment of samadhi. So, we have to see life from a very different perspective, bigger perspective. Then you see that our body is a tiny part of our consciousness.
Yet it's so easy to get consumed with the desires of the body, the needs of the body, the distraction. I mean, even in the industry that I'm in, you know, I have conversations around consciousness, but also around physical health and biohacking and all this stuff. And I've observed within myself how at times being so wrapped up in being physically healthy can be a distraction from actually just being present.
No,
You know?
but see, we usually swing to the extremes. Either we ignore our body totally and not care for it, or we are so caught up in it. I would say go with the middle path. Body has its needs. Take care of body. Have good food. a good rest, exercise. All that is necessary for the body. But that is not the end, you know. There is something more. And when you are sharing yourself with everyone, then the real unconditional love in life dawns, blossoms. Then all the small needs of yours doesn't even matter to you. See? When you have mission, when you have a vision, then you see tiny needs, small things, just they go to the background.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories about, again, back to some of the Indian saints and mystics, you know, about Yogananda and Maharishi and these different characters wherein they would barely sleep or eat food, you know, like they're living in a totally different kind of plane of reality.
That's you know, the body doesn't require much, you know, doesn't require much. But at the same time, I'm telling you, we should not ignore when, see, Lord Mahavir, he just ate only few days in a year. But if someone tried to imitate that, they're harming their own system.
Right.
So we have to be very natural.
What's your sleeping schedule like? I'm curious.
3 hours.
3 hours a night? And you have energy to go on tour and do all this? See, you got something figured out, all right? I'm going to listen back to this interview 10 times, like, what was it? Because I've noticed that with...
Sometimes I get even 2 hours. You know.
Really? And you still feel functional and vital and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you think that for some of us that perhaps we're burning up energy, taking life too seriously, and that's why we need 7 or 8 hours?
No, we don't need to. If the body needs that much, we should give it. And sometimes I do sleep for 6 hours, 5 hours, once in a while. So just to make sure that I am not in any, I have the capacity to sleep longer too.
Right.
So you don't suffer from insomnia, it doesn't amount to that. So when you do pranayama, meditation, or you have something important to do, then you get energy from other sources. So meditation gives you energy.
I've heard it said that 20 minutes of a deep meditation is equivalent to 3 hours sleep, or different equations
5,
like
6
that.
hours of sleep.
Yeah? And do you find in your daily life now that you're still keeping up with your meditation practice? Is it regimented or just kind of...
No regimented. For me, walking, talking, sitting, talking, it's all meditation only.
Right. Would you say then that, again, I don't want to frame it as a goal, but it seems to me that, as you said, getting on the plane, getting on the train, right? Doing some work to arrive there, but then at a certain point...
I'm at home. I have nowhere to go, I tell you.
Right. So perhaps it's, arriving at a place where your life is a prayer, your life is a meditation, right? Yeah, I like that perspective.
Don't need to do anything.
Right.
But still I sit, because then I have no right to tell others to meditate if I don't.
Good point.
So I do sit for meditation, though I need not have to.
Good point.
Okay.
All right. Listen, I got one last question for you. I know you got to go get on a plane and continue your tour of the United States here. Welcome, by the way, and thank you for gracing us with your presence in this country and on this podcast. My last question is, who are 3 teachers or teachings that have influenced your life that you could share with us?
I was... I can't say that some particular person has influenced me totally, or changed, or transformed, because from my childhood I had this, vision. But of course I had association of many things in my teenage, especially. And my mother, of course, was very spiritual. She was very spiritual too. So I was, in my teenage, I spent time with Maharishi Mahesh and Anandmayi Ma. So like that, saints. You know, Maharshiji picked me up when I was a student, and because I knew Vedic literature, so he asked me to come. He used to ask to chant and go on Vedic science too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he was conducting Vedant science conferences, so he used to ask me to participate in those talks with the scientists. Because I was both a student of science and Vedic literature. So I was very interested. But I see, when you are awake, you can get lessons from everything. And it's more of unlearning than learning. Spiritual knowledge is not learning from something from somebody. It's more how you can learn to unlearn.
Dude, mic drop. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming by today.
Lovely.
That's a beautiful ending note there. It's about unlearning, folks, not getting more, but perhaps getting rid of the things that are no longer valid or true.
Yeah. Not get stuck in the informations that you get. Become hollow and empty. There you
Awesome.
are. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, lovely.
That was super fun, man. Thank you.
Thank
So good. That was a really great last moment, too. You can shut down the live streams at will. Andy, were you able to get some couple good photos?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I did have a teacher at one